in Malindi, 97.7. In Nyeri, 90.9. Eldoret, 96.7. Nakuru, 96.0. Someone was asking about what? Narok. 96.0 frequency. You'll still be able to catch it in Narok. 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, and 94.4 in Nairobi. We live stream the show as well on www.spicefm.co.ke, as well as SpiceFM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We're also live for the next 2 hours on KTN Home. And good morning to our audience on KTN Home. Well, in the situation for this hour, let's talk about data and affordability of data. You know, a couple of years ago, when we started seeing other entrants, well, the third mobile operator in the country, that was U-Mobile, ESA Telecom, right? I remember the conversation shifting to, within a few years' time, the competition in this industry is not going to be about airtime and calling. It's going to move into data. And then, you know, it will be a debate between the CEOs of the three mobile companies on what exactly would this look like. I mean, what are we talking about? That's the same time as well when we were seeing the government working so hard at bringing better connectivity for data, allowing undersea fiber cables to land at the coast. We had Seacom, we had the teams and others landing at the coast, and then CS for communication, Mutahi Kagwe, and the PS, Bitange Nemo, saying, you know what, now the issue about data and content is what's going to be the big thing. So content, for very many people, is how you're consuming the information. YouTube, one of the platforms where Kenyans have really, you know, gone into YouTube. Many, starting with just musicians. Musicians who were selling CDs and tapes now started producing videos.
Right. And
initially they were selling VCDs, and then now they started uploading their videos on YouTube. And nowadays, big people like Sauti Sol, when they want to release that, dropping a new single or dropping a new album, it goes first on YouTube, and you catch it on YouTube, and then you catch it elsewhere. So the whole issue of how you can access this content, videos, streams and such, is big. Safaricom has now entered into a deal with Google, where they have a package, a bundle that specifically gives you access to YouTube, 10 shillings a day, consume as much as you want. You can leave it playing and come back, and your 10 bob is still going to be 10 bob. I mean, well, it's not going to be 10 bob.
For 24 hours.
For 24 hours, it's going to be there. So let's try and understand what this is all about, all right? Because when this giant mobile operator goes into such kind of deals, there must be something that they're looking at. They must have a lot of data that they know about consumption of Kenyans and how they're consuming content on YouTube and all that. So let's talk to the senior manager in charge of mobile data at Safaricom. His name is Martin Mabuya. Martin, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you doing today?
I am very well, thank you. And my co-hosts are very good as well, as I see them.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Good morning, Martin.
Morning. How are you doing?
Very well.
Yeah.
Putting you right there on the spot, Martin. So,
Yeah.
tell us about this deal that you struck with Google for access to YouTube.
Well, actually, what we've done with our good friends at Google is that we put together a package for access to YouTube, right? Yeah, so we have a YouTube exclusive bundle where for 2 shillings daily you're able to get access to YouTube. And just slightly to correct you, it's not necessarily unlimited, right? Because you consider there is other factors like network capacity and such like things.
Okay.
So it's about 80 MB of specific for YouTube. And if you're doing that on standard definition, if you are running YouTube for a continuous period of time, you'll probably be able to have about 30 minutes there of access, all right? But the reason why we put this at YouTube is because we are trying to make this content relevant, especially to people who have never had use for internet before. Now, think about it from this perspective. A person who's an internet newbie is a person who necessarily doesn't have a reason to want to go on the internet, all right? So the only thing that they can actually consider internet is their favorite content, for instance. And if they're looking for gospel music, if they're looking for comedy, if they're looking for news, for them, that is the end game for them. All right. The person who's been a digital native knows exactly what they go to do on the internet. But this, for us, we're considering it as a gateway, especially as we try to liberate internet for each and every other Kenyan from every walk of life. Yeah, so that's the whole idea. The other packages that for people who are internet savvy can actually be able to use. But the reason for this, our biggest motivation were probably people out country, people who've never had use for data, and that is the reason why we are trying to open that space up.
Maybe the younger audience as well.
Well, yeah. So if you look at the younger audience, especially urban, all right, when you look at those guys, if you have a family, for instance, Eric, I'd ask you what they call internet in the house. They probably don't even call it internet; they call it Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Those guys are a different ballgame, to be honest. And for them,
when they're out of the house,
yeah,
they talk about data bundles.
Yeah, exactly my point. Yeah. So for them, we actually have a package. We have other packages for people who are very intense users. But as you said, this also can actually be very useful for someone who wants to use YouTube when they're out of the house as well.
Martin, the timing of this doesn't go unnoticed. I reckon that we have more people at home now, and you have more people who have needs when it comes to how they want to interact, because we know that YouTube, having been used for entertainment as well as information, does the timing of all of this play a role in when you chose to roll this out with all that's going now with COVID-19?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing I would like to point out over here is the outcome of what people are using YouTube for, to be honest. And there's a story I actually was telling one of my friends about one time we went for a market visit, because we constantly want to see what the consumer is doing. So this guy is actually a mechanic on Grogon, all right? And if you take whichever car you have to this guy, he will never tell you he doesn't fix that car. Okay. So the guy, you'll bring him a 2018 model Jeep, for instance. I can tell you for free that guy has never been to a class to be taught how to fix that car.
Yeah.
Okay. But what the guy will tell you is like, hey, watch hapo gari mkubwa tutatengeneza. The guy will go at the back of the shed over there. He'll go to YouTube and he will go and just query on how to fix the radiator or whatever of car this is. For sure, that information exists.
Okay.
All right. And by the time you go and come back, that guy will have fixed your car. The moral of this story is that at this particular point in time, any information you are looking for, you probably find it. So, and what is actually happening in this period of time where access to information is relatively limited, in that movement, first of all, is limited, interactions are limited, your kids are not going to school. So essentially, this becomes the one place where you can be able to get most of the information you want. So the use has suddenly evolved from just purely entertainment to knowledge, and you can also be able to learn a new skill in this space. And you are right. It has come in very handy, especially in this COVID time, because people are able to then access the information they would necessarily not be looking for. But on YouTube. And you can think about it, there is more time than you would have before, so you need to fill that time. Number two, you have kids that probably need to be homeschooled for some reason, and you need to get that information. So yeah, you're right. The timing, we were not really looking at this for timing. It just came in as a coincidence, and we can say that has been very useful to the end user at this point.
Right.
If I may ask, if I'm to believe media reports from last year, more so it picked up last year and this year, Google has been accused internationally of mining and harvesting data illegally, and they've been taken to court over these things. How does that play? Safaricom partnering with a search engine giant who have actually been taken to court on something very serious as invading people's privacy, getting information that they shouldn't be getting and using it.
Well, in all honesty, I cannot actually be able to comment on behalf of Google. And obviously,
I'm actually asking on behalf of Safaricom. Essentially, if we were to believe what we've been reading, then we are saying that Safaricom is getting in bed with a rogue search engine company.
So I could not actually call Google a rogue search engine company. Google is actually a very reputable global business, and that's why I was saying probably if there are those kind of allegations, probably they'd be best placed to address them. But from where we sit as guys at Safaricom, we have very stringent data control information process within our business. And we do not give anyone access, be it a partner, be it whoever. We do not give access to people's personal data. That one is a guarantee I can give that we do not expose our customers' data at any conditions. So anything probably that is around the Google space, I think they probably would be best to address that. But I can give you a guarantee that.
How do you support this guarantee, Martin? I mean, I've heard you say it. You're telling me it's a guarantee. Is it written somewhere? Is it something that I can get hold of and take home and keep in a safe?
Well, we actually are a regulated business by the government, all right? And there are certain standards that we have to operate by, all right? And if we do not abide by those standards, we are actually at liability by the government and other regulators for us to be able to abide by those. And that's the reason why I can comfortably say that we do not risk our customers' information.
Martin, I'm going to go back to the patterns that we are seeing that people are operating within, especially during COVID times, because those are the times that we find ourselves in now. What is the shift that you've seen in the consumption of data pre-COVID, we can say BC, before COVID, even 3 months before March? And how has that changed then during the time where people needed to be in contact or in touch with others and they couldn't do it physically?
Well, what I can say is immediately we got into the COVID space, there was obviously an unexpected rise in the demand for data. And like I mentioned, you realize that at that point, everyone was home. All right. All of us guys who go to an office to work suddenly had to figure out how to work without going to that office. Right. So essentially, there was that increased demand for the use of data. But obviously, as the economy starts opening up and things continue loosening up, we are seeing some considerable shift back to people's normal behavior, right? Because there are different data usage patterns that you see. For instance, you will see early morning, late evenings, there is a considerable use of data. During the day, that probably goes down because people are very busy with nation building activities. And you can now realize that at this COVID time, these daytime trends I was telling you, if people go to do up and about their business, that was considerably controlled, or it was considerably reduced. And when people have time in their hand, obviously nowadays internet has become a default way of people passing time. So, but as the economy opens up, then obviously that is going down, but not back to probably the pre-COVID, what you call BC or before COVID. But essentially, what that means is that our reality of how we live our lives is considerably shifting right now, okay? Because COVID has opened a different way of life that we were not used to before. Most of the people are still working from their houses anyway, so they are not as much as working from the offices as they used to. All right, the kids that used to be at school during the day are not; they are still at home. And obviously you'll start seeing some trends of some patterns changing. You do not want to go to the bank because it's not necessarily very safe, so you probably opt to do it online. You would not want to go buy something you want to go buy physically. You want it delivered to your house. So those trends are probably going to stick for a period of time, because anything of this magnitude always leaves a change in behavior.
Still talking about that data then. Out of the many millions of subscribers that you have at Safaricom, how many are data subscribers?
Well, I could actually not be able to.
And this is mobile, not the home connection.
Yeah, so I think in Kenya you'd actually look at about the 20 million space combined on how customers use data, but and that is based on the CA information that was released last quarter. So that is public information that anyone can access. So that's around the number. But what that means is that we still have some amount of distance to go in terms of covering the rest of the population, and the challenge for that actually is brought by access to smartphones. All right. Yeah, so because smartphones are not necessarily the cheapest things in the market, and you can bear me witness to that, all right? So most of the rural populations that cannot actually be able to access that smartphone are the batch that is left out of what I'd call the digital divide. But as we speak right now, Eric, we have something that we are working around to bring out to the market very soon, and our CEO Peter during our annual end of year report, you remember he mentioned that we are going to bring accessibility for smartphones. So what we're doing is that we are going to bring access to smartphone where you could actually be able to pay on a day-to-day, something as 20 shillings. All right. So what we're trying to do with that is to give access to smartphones, because data, just for information, it has 3 legs. All right. Number one, you need to have a proper device for you to use it, a phone, a smartphone, for instance. Okay. Number 2, you need to have a proper network. Okay. Number 3, you need to have the ability to use that internet. So if any one of those is missing, then internet becomes a mirage of sorts, right? So if I have one of those Kamwigi phones, I might be in the middle of CBD where the network is probably the best. You still won't use the internet, right?
You won't have access to it. So my question then, actually, now that you've said that, my question was specifically to Safaricom. The number of subscribers that you have, how many have access to data? How many are subscribing to data, like buying data bundles?
Yeah. Well, like I said, we have around 20 million customers who use data, not necessarily on a day-to-day basis. And obviously, like I mentioned, that information is publicly out there. So we have a considerable amount of penetration of data customers in the country.
And what's the average data consumption per day?
So the average consumption of data is varied based on people's different uses for data. But most of our customers, you realize, will probably be using very minimal things like WhatsApp and everything. Very few people are heavy users of data. And that is why we are trying to open that space into making customers have accessibility to data. Because at the end of the day, let's just be honest, when you think about internet is not what you would call a basic need, all right? So where you have food, shelter, and clothing, and those kind of things that are at top. So essentially that means that what the customer is willing to spare is probably what they will spend on data. So it's apart from people who have to work or live through the internet, the rest of the people is probably one of those things they use because they have to. So I cannot with certainty tell you it is 10, 15, 20, but it's not. If you look at the law of averages, is the most people use, but there's a very small batch of people are the one who drive the biggest volume.
Okay. Because where I was heading with that is there have been very many complaints. If you go to social media, you'll find complaints all the time. There are memes that are produced on how Safaricom chews data. So people complain, bought data, you do not know exactly what kind of, the number of units that you bought. And then you're also not monitoring your usage. But within a short time, it's gone.
Well, Eric, I think just to just put your mind at peace in that conversation, I think we've been hearing the same from our customers as well, and we operate in the kind of environment where we need the customers to have confidence in how we do business. All right. So at the moment, we're actually rolling out a feasibility tool where you can actually be able to see that the 2 MBs that I used, they went to Facebook, the 3 MBs went to YouTube, and you can see when you used it. Because I think that the biggest problem that you always have most of the time is when someone asks you, what happened to this, and you are not giving them a very good explanation. That is all right. So what we're doing right now is to give the customer 100% visibility so that the customer can say, I bought this much, I was able to use this on YouTube, I use this on Facebook, I use this here at this time, and this is what is remaining. Because the day you clear that up, then the customer doesn't have a problem. Because if it was on YouTube, I know I was on YouTube. Right? And I can actually see that within that duration of time, this is how much I used. I think that is the first step of what it is that we are trying to do. The second thing is that as we continue going ahead, you can realize that we're starting to give a lot more and more and more generous offers for bundles. Because the moment you have something small like 5-10 MBs, you will realize how it's moving. But if you have lots of it, then obviously it puts your mind at peace. So those are some of the things that we're trying to do. First of all, you're very clear to see where your data went. And number 2, we are trying to bring this worry-free experience around data where you have enough of it for you to be able to focus on exactly what it is that you want to do over a certain period of time and move on.
All right, so Martin.
So we've had the customers.
Okay, so quite a number of factors play here. Whether you look at sustainability, whether you look at affordability, across board. And so, let's say that we are entering into a season whereby the economy or businesses and students, even education, have to rely on data, and it's going to be quite intensive data driven economy is probably one of the things that we're going to be looking at in the near future, if not now already. Can we say that in terms of the affordability and sustainability, it's something that we can look at to the private sector with companies such as yourselves to be able to provide for the economy? Because government is not going to be able to do that single-handedly from what we see right now. And with the promise already from companies like yourselves, is it possible to sustain an intensive data-driven economy?
Well, I can actually say yes. Because where we are actually heading right now, we are actually going into an internet-driven or database-based economy. That's the truth, all right? And we guys as Safaricom, we do not live in a bubble. We live in the reality of our customers' reality, okay? Because if I woke up today and we price data in a place where it's not reachable to the average customer, then we have no business being in that business. All right. So as the reality of these customers changes, we change with it. If you look at the moment right now, we actually have for education, for instance, we have a package that we give even 100 MBs free for customers to be able to get the the curriculum guys. They have a syndicated syllabus. We offer that online up to 100 MBs for free for customers. So we are not ignorant to where the customer is today. And as we progress as that reality changes, we actually change with that. If you look at the perspective where we've even been giving our university students a certain a bundle for a very small amount of money for like 10 GBs for them to be able to do their studies. Yeah. So we actually live in the reality of the customer's reality because we do the business with the customer anyway. And as these things continue shifting, like for instance, if you look at our fixed customers who are on home fiber, for instance, when the COVID situation started, we actually doubled the speed. For the same amount of money you're paying for your fiber, we doubled the speed, all right? And we actually live in that constant evaluation of where the customer is for us to be able to operate. And as we continue moving into that digital space, then we have to be real to the customers, and we have to live in their reality. So as these situations change, you can rest assured that we will be able to play in the same space as the customer, for sure.
This is the situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We have on the line Martin Mabuya. He is a senior manager for mobile data, Safaricom PLC. We are discussing data consumption. Safaricom has rolled out this new partnership with Google where you can get a data bundle that specifically gives you access to YouTube content. And what Martin is saying is that this is very good, especially for people who are new entrants and new users of internet. And you'll be able to get access to YouTube. You'll be able to just buy this. How much again is it, Martin? Is it 2 shillings a day?
10 shillings.
10 shillings. You had said 2 at some point. I was so happy. Yeah, 10 bob per day, and you get to access Safaricom. You get to access YouTube on your Safaricom mobile device. You can still buy other data bundles as well for the other packages. We'll be asking about all those other users of internet and how they are benefiting from Safari. Martin Mabuya, senior manager for mobile data. He's on the line with us. We've been discussing this. They rolled out a new partnership with Google where for only 10 shillings a day, you get to access YouTube content. But this is not unlimited, Martin, is it?
It's not. I mentioned that the 10 bob is actually up to 80 MBs of YouTube. But then again, when you think about it, when you look at what it is that we package our data bundles, that's probably like 4 times what you would ordinarily get a data bundle for.
Okay. So for this person that you're targeting, let's say the person who's a new entrant into using internet on the phone, how many hours of continuous consumption are they likely to enjoy from this data bundle?
So remember again, like I told you, this guy is a zero user. They have no idea to start with. So we actually, what we practice, like I mentioned to you, from standard definition, and that is what most of the phones can support in that market segment, you can easily be able to do about half an hour of non-stop streaming. Yeah? Okay. But then again, these things are always dependent on factors like the network quality, the device you're using. So the thing about data is that you're not able to say the phone that Eric has and the phone that my mother have, they use the data in the same way. all right? Because they have different resolutions, they have different levels of processors and such like things. But from a standard definition perspective, we should be able to give you 30 minutes of non-stop. But even if you decide to do it 10 minutes here, another 5 there, you'll still be able to get up to the end of your bundle.
So what I'm thinking of is very many people are now seeking to consume church services on their mobile devices. And when I heard about this package, I thought, oh, okay, so here's a solution.
Yeah.
People don't need to queue up to go to church. Now with in this COVID times, they can consume church services on YouTube if the church is streaming on YouTube, and they can actually access this. But you're saying that there are some limitations. I wouldn't be able just to sit down with my high-end 4G phone and enjoy longer full services. For example, my pastor decided that today they're going to do 4 hours of service.
Well, the thing is, Eric, we have a variety of offerings that we have, and I remember when we started this COVID space where we had those kind of scenarios where people couldn't physically go to church anymore. There was a lot of other things that, forget about even church, there were guys who were doing concerts online and that kind of stuff. So we actually put out bundles that were relevant for that. For instance, we've always had a plan called Giga, where you're actually able to get a GB of data for 100 bob every day. It's always been there, and it's probably one of the most popular data bundles we have out there today. We also have, you can actually get the same 20 bob. You can actually be able to get about 200 MB, which is about, it will take you for about an hour and a half, which is actually about the length of a chat service anyway. So we were actually very considerate. It's not the only plan we have out there, but the reason why we are talking about the 10 bob is because of the objective of us trying to democratize this space to people who've never had a reason to use it, to want to use it. But for you, if you want to do those 4 hours, you want to stream a concert and stuff like that, we have plans that you can actually be able to use to do that.
All right, Martin. We're still, of course, looking at data, and we see that the world over, PPPs seem to work, public-private partnerships, and in times where governments may struggle or may need adequate or may need input from the private sector where things seem to be working. Now, with data and how you have seen that it can revolutionize thinking or even action anywhere, would you say that Safaricom then is placed to be able to advise or work with government across sector? Because we look at where there are struggles, health, education, across board, whereby data would be called upon to help some of the processes. Is Safaricom placed to be able to help out, to form some of these PPPs with government and see that some of these things are rolled out and working seamlessly?
Well, I think we have always done that. It's not that it's something we're going to start. We've always done that, all right? If you think about it at this particular COVID time, right, Safaricom is actually working with government to make sure that customers are transacting, especially in M-Pesa, for less than 1,000 is free. But that's something we've actually put together alongside government because we are addressing a reality of the customer right now and where we are in consideration that we are going to get a hit from an economic perspective. That is one of the partnerships. A while back, we also partnered with the National Police Services where we are actually helping in terms of making sure that we have safe communities, in terms of the surveillance cameras that were out on the roads and all that stuff. So Safaricom is always open to partner with government when that comes to it, even from our foundation perspective.
I'm even going a little bit deeper than that, and I'm saying, look at the challenges that are being faced. As an example, look at the challenges that are being faced in the education sector today, and this is across board, from kindergarten up until university, right? And at the very center of all of this could be a data solution, whereby teaching cannot take place right now remotely because of inaccessibility to certain things. Could there be an advisory role or an input role here that could be played to help out?
A direct example here, Martin. Kenyatta University has even placed adverts in their dailies today saying that all students, it's mandatory for all students in all modes of study who do not own laptops to ensure that they acquire them for online learning, because they are now going to offer blended learning, face-to-face and online mode of learning and teaching. So you're talking about all the students at KU who now are being told by the university, you know what, you must have a laptop. That means you must have access to data.
Well, like I mentioned a while earlier when we were having the conversation around education, we have partnered even with universities to give them a special bundle for their students. So we are always open to having these conversations as well. And like I mentioned again, we have an education plan that is available for our primary and secondary, especially if you have a candidate for okay, we realize that the exams are not going to happen this year, but we've already put that out there. So the basis I'm trying to say is that we are always open to partner with government and other institutions for us to be able to deliver value to our customers and to the public at large, all right? So essentially, when that opportunity arises, you can count Safaricom to be first on the table to raise up the hand and say, we are able to help, we're able to partner, and we're able to engage. Yeah.
Is there any company in this country that does what you do who are as huge and have as large an outreach as yours?
In what aspects?
In all aspects.
From a telco or
all aspects. I'm including everything that
internet
you
and
do.
data.
Yes.
I think it's a fact of there that Safaricom is probably one of the biggest companies in East and Central Africa, and we engage in the public in a lot of other things in the market. From our data, voice, and data. We have fixed services. We are what we call an integrated services company, but I don't think there is anyone who's bigger in this country than Safaricom, even from a capitalization perspective.
Okay, if then that is the reality, and you have reached in the furthest corners of this particular country, and right now the big challenge we seem to have with education seems to be one of using modern technology, which you people actually have a great handle on to ensure that, say, learning takes place. Every so often I read of offers you make on phones, sometimes on computers. So when you talk of partnerships with the government, does Safaricom have something similar where, for instance, laptops, a tool that is required by, say, university students, can be acquired with your help, paid using a certain mode of payment that is acceptable and easy on the parents and the students? Because bundles alone will not do it. And it's not as though each and every student needs your help, but those who do. Such a partnership, is it possible?
Well, it's always possible. Like I just mentioned earlier on, that we are actually doing something around giving phones at a small payment plan. So if we are doing that, then I don't see why that would be a problem. But if that conversation comes on the table, we would always be more than happy to take it up. But I can tell you honestly, I don't think we have any of those conversations. But if they come, you can rest assured that we'll be more than happy.
Why must you wait for it to be taken up? I mean, the oodles of money that Safaricom makes, they make them in this region and mostly in this country. Surely, CSR, shouldn't that be something that Safaricom should pick up and say, look, we're making this offer because there seems to be a problem. We want to fill this gap. It is, after all, expanding your business.
So, like I mentioned, that we have started with the phones right now because that is the easiest way that you can actually be able to reach. When you talk about laptops, you'll probably be limiting the number of people you can reach. Right?
Why?
But when you talk about the phones, because the people who have the need for laptops, you probably be 10, 20,000, but millions of people need smartphones. So that's why we started with this.
Right now, we are talking about millions of students who would use a laptop.
Yeah, but Eric, think of it from this perspective, all right? We are talking about them not even having a basic smartphone to start with. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you're talking about being able to access other things, like even being able to communicate over and above just being able to access that education, with a smartphone, you can actually be able to access that education. You can be able to log into those classes. As we speak right now, we're having an interview. I'm not even in the studio, and I'm doing it from a phone, right?
Yep.
So most of the time when you start doing something, always start with something that has the biggest impact. Okay, so if we started with the phones, it does not mean that we cannot be able to move to laptops. But can we, first of all, be able to roll out the smartphones, which is where you have the most reach? But think about it. If you're able to give people the access of not asking someone, give me 10,000 shillings for a smartphone and tell them, okay, you can actually be paying for this thing for 20 shillings a day and still be able to get a data bundle and a voice plan with it. That is actually more impactful than probably starting with laptops. But that we will get there. Let's just get this one first out so we can meet and reach the most people we can. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine for us to be able to give it on a payment plan, it's a considerable investment on our end. But we're still willing to continue investing in that so that we can be able to get everyone into the digital divide.
What's the future like, Martin, with a view towards development or developed data infrastructure in this country or even in the region?
Well, I think from where I see the future going into is that we are going to have a much more content-driven economy, and I can actually tell you if you look at the trends globally, you can actually see that most of the investment is going towards content a lot, and most of the content companies are even buying up telcos in the developed world, because at the end of the day, you need to realize that what we guys as telcos provide is a pipeline or a conduit that takes the customer towards some content. So essentially what we're looking at is that the conversation is going to shift from I want to sell you a data bundle to me giving you access to the content, because that is the end play. All right. So that is significantly going to change, number one. Number two, technology keeps evolving all the time, and we have to keep changing and looking at where we're going. For instance, 5G is starting to become a conversation now. It's probably going to be the biggest thing in the next 3 or 4 years. We are not very sure how that works out, but that's a reality. Number four is that customers are going to start operating in a space where volume is not a conversation anymore. And that's why you're looking at people moving towards the space that is fiber and what we call fixed internet, because that one you do not pay for a bundle. That one you pay for access for probably a month and you pay the specific amount of money. So there's interesting spaces that data starts getting into as the technology, number one, evolves, and number two, the accessibility for that technology becomes available to the mass market. Yeah.
You mentioned 5G, and so let's talk about 5G for a bit. So right now, Safaricom has the 4G and the 3G network in some areas, right? How is the utilization of, for example, the 4G bandwidth, and are we ready for 5G?
So actually, I'll tell you, for instance, at the moment, the combination of 3G and 4G, we've covered about 86% of the population, and we are looking to get to about 100% of the population covered by 3G and 4G. The utilization, to be honest with you, is actually very impressive, because Kenyans are using data considerably. So we're actually seeing a use of those networks. But now you see, when you look at 5G, the use cases for 5G change. All right, it is not what you need 5G for is not necessarily what you need for 4G, because the technology that is 5G, number one, the latency is actually towards zero. So essentially, it means that it's real time. So that means most of these things that need to be done real time, like what you in the developed world they are calling driverless cars, where you can't afford to have latency, then those use cases start coming in, artificial intelligence and all those things. Their need is very different. To be honest with you, in terms of where we are as an economy right now, apart from just normal speeds, I think those use cases will have to evolve. But the use cases that we have right now for internet are well served by 4G, because people are just looking for, access to content, for instance. Yeah. People are looking to be able to do internet-based operations where it's not a matter of life and death, like if you're having a driverless car that can crash if there's latency, all right? So there's those considerations to be made. But 5G is the reality of the future. And you start seeing Internet of Things coming into play, where you can be able to have a home that you control without you being there. That will require 5G of some sort. So there are a lot of those things that then start coming into play. But as an investment for 5G, when that time comes, because also it is subject to getting our spectrum approval, we should be happy to get into that space as well. So it's a space we are looking into this space.
Still have about 5 minutes of a conversation with Martin Mabuya. He's a senior manager for mobile data at Safaricom. We are discussing mobile data and what Safaricom is doing and the kind of offers that Safaricom has. If you've got any question to ask, you can call in 0719-012-600. That is 0719-012-600. Martin, talking about consumption and looking at how Kenyans are consuming data and what they're using, as their social media platforms, so to speak. It's said that WhatsApp is the biggest social media platform in Kenya.
It is.
How many different products do you have to support usage of WhatsApp?
So actually what we have done is that for every bundle you buy, we give you WhatsApp for free.
For every bundle, WhatsApp is free. Explain.
Yeah, we give you. Yeah, what we do is that, for instance, if you buy a data bundle at let's say 500 MBs, we give you an access to WhatsApp. So that in case if you run out of your the bundle you're using, you can still continue to be on WhatsApp. And most of the people, if you think about it, as long as they're connected to WhatsApp, they're still online.
They're good.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So if our plans come with free WhatsApp access with them, and actually because of the same insight that we said, that sometimes you run out of data, but most of our lives, let's just be honest, run on WhatsApp.
I've actually been noticing that. So sometimes the phone is telling me that I cannot access my browser.
Your Facebook or whatever, but WhatsApp is
but
still
WhatsApp is still active.
It's because of the free WhatsApp that we give you.
Does it run unlimited?
No, actually, we give you to a certain limit of the bundle that you buy. But the purpose of that thing is to keep you going when your data bundle runs out.
Okay. I'm still a lot interested in how soon you're going to roll out this, what you're saying, the accountability side of things, where when somebody buys data, they can see how they are consuming that data.
Yeah.
Like towards
that thing is actually ready. We are testing it right now. So in a couple of weeks, it should be out in the public.
Without a shadow of a doubt, the innovations that Safaricom has made and the strides that they have endeavored to ensure that the efforts actually benefit the citizenry are exemplary. There's no question about it. But there is a great deal more that Safaricom could do. You do have something called Safaricom Foundation, isn't it?
Yes, we do.
What does it do exactly?
So Safaricom Foundation's job is to support the community. So we have a whole bunch of projects, water projects, hospitals, schools. We actually support our especially in the marginal areas. And our biggest focus is around water, education, and health. So those are the biggest things that we actually invest in. We have a whole lot of projects that we support. And what people do is that you actually come and tell us that you have this community project that we want to do, and we support those projects. And it's not just Safaricom Foundation. We also have a foundation called M-Pesa Foundation. So there are two of them. So the M-Pesa Foundation, number one, we have a school that supports underprivileged kids who are actually bright kids that need support. So we do that, and we also support a whole bunch of projects. If you go to our site, I think you can see a whole breakdown of the side of the projects that we support, and there are a lot of them. The only reason that you probably will not see them out there is because when we support the community, we just do that. So we don't use that for publicity. We just support the community.
As I said, it is, it's not just commendable, it's laudable, it's excellent. However, may I suggest that instead of waiting for people to come to you in these extraordinary times, that you also keep an ear out for things that need your help, and you jump to it instead of waiting for people to actually come to you to see. Because some people may not even be in a position to bring their problems to you.
So most of the time, we actually get those things from the general community, like even the what I'd call the public administration of such areas. But your point is well noted, that we can actually be able to see things, and we actually do that a lot. Like even in the COVID time, you can see that we actually giving out PPEs. We supported government directly in terms of giving money that was going to help communities that are at risk. So we do a lot of that, and by the way, any person out there who thinks that there's a project that they need us to support, we are more than happy to support. But when we see causes that are actually out there that need support, we always jump on them, to be honest.
Thank you very much, Martin, for speaking to us today. I'd like to give you just this one more minute so you can speak to Kenyans and tell them what you'd like as Safaricom, what you'd like Kenyans to know.
Well, I think for me, the one thing I'd actually to put out there is that we are always listening to what our customers have to say and the public at large. And this company is actually founded around the community because it's actually a Kenyan brand, and we've actually grown with Kenyans, and we are going to have to continue to grow with Kenyans. And we are also very grateful of the support that our customers have given us over time. And we commit to continue being relevant and being honest and transparent and honest for you as our customers. Thank you.
Asante sana. Thank you very much. Martin Mabuya is a senior manager for mobile data at Safaricom PLC. He's been speaking to us about what kind of innovative ideas they're coming up with at Safaricom. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Eric Latif. We have in the room CT Muga and Nduoko.